Joining us now, I'm delighted he's with us, an old friend of the Laura Ingraham Show, the senator from Florida. I don't want to say junior senator. You know what they did, Marco? They wrote junior senator from Florida. I'm just not going to say that. Senator from Florida, how are you?
Good. I'm happy to be junior senator.
I know, but, I just don't think of you that way. Well, look, it's great to talk to you. We have a lot to go through with you on the issue of immigration, on the issue of the student loan issue, and yesterday, of course, the president on the issue of gay marriage. What's your reaction to the president's move on this?
Well, that was his position back in 1996, and then he kind of came back and told people something different because he wanted to get elected, and then now I guess they've decided it's better to be for it again, so he's gone back to be for it. And but here's the other thing I think it is. I don't think he wanted to do it yesterday. Shockingly, I think Joe Biden said something he wasn't supposed to say. I know that surprises us, given his history of message discipline. But I think shockingly, Vice President Biden said something he wasn't supposed to say. So it forced the president to say something he was planning to say anyway. It just forced him to say it sooner. The truth is that the number one issue facing our country is that there are millions of Americans that don't have a job, that haven't had a job in a long time, or that are working twice as hard and making half as much, and that these things have only gotten worse since President Obama was sworn in as president, and he doesn't want to talk about that. So every single week, whether it's the student loan issue this week or now this gay marriage issue, next week it'll be something else, every single week they will trot out another issue to avoid having to talk about the economy, because if this election's about the economy, which is what it should be about, he can't win, and they know that. They're smart enough to know that. So I'm not saying this is not an issue we shouldn't have an opinion on. I'm not saying it's not an important issue. Obviously, you're seeing this issue being litigated and voted on across the country at the state level. We did so in Florida. You saw so in North Carolina. But in terms of our president, what we want him really focused on is getting jobs and the economy growing again and keeping America safe. He doesn't want to talk about that issue, especially the economy.
And Senator Rubio, the issue, however, is used in ways to, I think, not spark an honest conversation about it, but to demonize people. And Charles Krauthammer made this point last night. Let's listen.
As we saw with Prop 9 and other referenda on gay rights, those people who oppose gay marriage are demonized by the pro side as bigots, as haters, and often suffer boycotts and worse. Whereas I think he ought to say to the country, a difficult decision, each side ought to respect the other and not demonize them.
That's the concern, is it not,
yeah, it is.
Senator Rubio?
Absolutely. It sure is, and as I've said before and on multiple occasions, that this is an issue about an institution called marriage and what it should be. This has nothing to do about discriminating against people or being angry at anybody or prohibiting people's private activities or telling people what they can do in the privacy of their homes or in the privacy of their lives or in public in their lives. The issue here is a very straightforward one, and that is this institution called marriage, which societies have had for a very long time. What does it mean? What is it? What is a marriage? And for those of us that believe that a marriage, the word marriage is a very specific institution, and that is the union of a man and a woman under law together, I think you can have that belief and not have to be characterized the way some people are characterized about it. I think it's an honest and open debate and that people are having all across the country. And so I think Charles is absolutely right when he talks about one of the pitfalls of this issue is this effort to demonize people. But that's not unique to this issue. I mean, look, if you're not in favor, I spent all week kind of chuckling to myself being lectured by my senior colleagues here about the student loan issue. I'm one of only 2 U.S. senators that has one, and yet they're lecturing me about student loans. And obviously, if you don't vote for the Democratic plan on student loans, then you're not in favor of students. If you don't agree that the federal government should have the power to mandate that the Catholic Church pay for things the Catholic Church teaches against, you're waging a war against women. If you don't believe that we should raise taxes, you're waging a war against the working class. I mean, every week it is an effort by this president to divide one group of Americans against another group of Americans for the purposes of getting him reelected. It's very, very sad.
Do you think the president would have come out for this at all, setting Joe Biden aside, if there weren't a lot of money at stake? There are a lot of wealthy gay donors done very well in business and entertainment industry and so forth. Do you think that would have happened?
I don't know. And obviously these are, as Americans and in a free republic, They have an absolute right to participate in the political process and donate to candidates that they support, and they have an absolute right. That's what they believe. They have a right under the Constitution to participate in the political process, and so do the people that disagree with them. And so I don't know if that's the interest the president had on this. I always hate to question people's motives, especially if I don't know what they are. All I can tell you is that, without a doubt, any day, no matter how bad the press may think this issue may be playing for him, and I've read some headlines that make it sound like this is a bad thing for him or whatever. I think any day that this president doesn't have to talk about his record on the economy
it's good for
is the day they're probably cheering about in Chicago, because that's not something he wants to talk about.
The Latino vote, would this help or hurt with him?
I don't know. Again, the number one issue in the Hispanic community is jobs and economic empowerment, the desire to leave your children better off than yourselves. I think that's the number one issue in our country for all Americans. Americans of Hispanic descent, because especially if you're here in the first or second generation, that's even more pressing, because you remember how bad things used to be, and you desperately want your kids to be better off than yourself. So what they're looking for is, look at the unemployment rate in the Hispanic community. It's higher than the general population. And so that's hurting, and people are desperate and the desire to. You know what I'm running into? People that have worked their entire lives and sacrificed so their kids could go to college. Their kids did everything their parents asked of them. They got a good grade. They went to college. They studied hard. They got a degree. They got an advanced degree, and they can't find a job. It's like everything we promised them would happen for them if they did what we asked them to do has turned out not to be true, and there's this extraordinary concern about that. The kids having to move back in with their parents, all those kinds of things. It's not working the way they thought it would work in America, and they're desperate to see a change of direction on that.
But the left is very talented, though, at messaging and branding, and you know this, Senator Rubio, better than anybody, because it happens to people like you you're out there, you're very articulate, you're very popular nationally and also in Florida. So they use this branding mechanism, and it's done by surrogates, and it's done by Hollywood figures, and they start throwing around that hater word, that you're anti-gay or you're a hater. You hate, and it's the facial expression they use. And young people don't want to be seen as haters. They want to be seen as kind of with the in crowd and kind of cool, and they want to be with the evolving people, not the devolving people. So do the Republicans have a branding problem on this?
Well, again, I think certainly we have to point it out for what it is, or we can find ourselves in one. I think what you're saying, and it's absolutely right, is they don't want to have a debate on the merits of these ideas. They just basically, if you don't agree with them, you're a bad person, and that's usually their default position. I found that repeatedly. For example, if you don't agree with their ideas about immigration and immigration reform, you're anti-immigrant. If you don't agree with their ideas on, how the tax code should be structured, you're anti-working. You're for the rich guys, and you're against the working class. So we have to understand that's what their strategy is. Look, they can't win a debate on the merits of these ideas. They can't. They know that. So they don't want to be involved in a debate on the merits. They want to be involved. They immediately go to the, let's label these folks as less than desirable, and for the reasons that you've outlined. So we have to be aware of it, and we have to be able to point that out. But we also have the truth on our side. We also have facts and figures on our side, and we have to be able to make that compelling argument and not fall into the trap of trying to prove that we're not haters, that we're not trying to overcompensate either.
Yeah, I think that's right. On the issue of immigration, we talked about the Latino vote, and on the same-sex marriage issue, Pew actually has a poll that says that it's 42-42, which I find difficult to believe, but that's what they're reporting. But on the issue of immigration and a pathway to citizenship, you've decided to put yourself out there as beginning this conversation of a different alternative from what the Democrats are offering. They're offering more of a kind of straight amnesty that comes in stages, but it's quite easy to be the beneficiary of. You don't really have to do anything except say you're going to school. It's very, very loosey-goosey. But you've decided to get out there and offer something different. Tell us about that.
Well, let me first start by saying that on the immigration issue, one of the great injustices that's happening in the American debate today is this idea that somehow Hispanics are in favor of illegal immigration. The enormous majority, the overwhelming majority of Hispanics in this country are here legally. I think 60% of the Hispanics in this country were born here. And so that's number one. Number two is Hispanics support everything that the general population supports. Hispanics support border security. Hispanics support employment security. Hispanics support enforcing our immigration laws. These are facts, and these are this notion that's been created that somehow Hispanics are in favor of illegal immigration and that the way to win Hispanic votes is to support illegal immigration is not just wrong. I think it's offensive, and so I wanted to begin by that. Now, I believe that the most important thing we need to do in the illegal immigration issue that our country faces is a combination of enforce our laws and modernize our legal immigration system. We are not the anti-immigration party. We are not the anti-illegal immigration party. We are the pro-legal immigration party, we meaning Republicans. And we need a legal immigration system that works, that honors our heritage, both as a nation of immigrants and also as a nation of laws. Now, and that's the way I think we should approach this issue. The Democrats have said that they're going to make a push on the DREAM Act again this year, something that I do not support. And so I said, well, if you're going to make a push on the DREAM Act and they control the Senate, then we Republicans should figure out an alternative to your flawed approach to the DREAM Act, an alternative that tries to help kids who find themselves as victims. These are young people that came into America through no fault of their own, but how can we help them without rewarding those who have broken the law and not encouraging people to break the law in the future? And, you know, the case that I always cite is the one in Miami of a girl that entered the United States when she was 4 years old. She was brought here by her parents. When you're 4, you go where your parents go, even if what they're doing is wrong. And she's grown up her whole life. She's a valedictorian who's been accepted to Dartmouth to study molecular biology. And most Americans say, well, it doesn't feel right if she's lived here her whole life to deport her. So what can we do to help her without rewarding illegal immigration or encouraging it in the future? And that's what I've been trying to figure out what we can do as a response to the DREAM Act that the Democrats have offered. And we're working on it. I mean, we're trying to find something that, as I said, accomplishes that. It treats this in a humanitarian way, but does not in any way open the door in the future for illegal immigration, and doesn't have some of the problems the DREAM Act has in it. So it's not going to be an easy endeavor.
No. And your idea, again, it's just formulating, but your idea would not mean that people who are in other countries now do everything they can to get here now illegally so they can be the beneficiary of it because they wouldn't be included. Is that right?
Yeah, that's
people who come in now illegally.
In the future, right? I mean, it's a very narrow criteria, and we're still working on it. But it would basically be people that have come here at some point in the past, at a very young age, have lived here consecutively, have no felony record, graduated from high school, are going to go to school or serve in the military. They have to finish school, and then what they would get basically is a non-immigrant visa. What I've tried to do is use the existing immigration system to accommodate them. You get a non-immigrant visa, which we do now for student visas and things of that nature. And then afterwards, if you graduate, you can renew that and convert it to some sort of a work visa. And then at some point in the future, again, we don't know what that date that's one of the things we're working through. They would not have a special pathway to citizenship. They would have the same rights as anybody else in the world with a non-immigrant visa, which is the existing legal immigration system. Not a special pathway, not anything less, not anything more than legal immigration holders have. That's kind of the general concept. We're working through it. I mean, the devil always is in the details. But if that's what the Democrats are going to push on this year, I feel like Republicans should have an alternative.
And you believe that the Democrats are going to push this, quote, DREAM Act, I can't stand the name, but DREAM Act in October to try to spike the Hispanic vote and pick a fight with Republicans and
I have no doubt
make
about
you look like a hater.
Oh, sure. They have no doubt. I have no doubt about the fact that they would use this for that. In fact, one of the things that's already been documented is that the White House has been, and the articles have been written, 2 or 3 now, the White House has been calling in DREAM Act advocates and asking them, almost ordering them, not to work with me on this issue, because they have been counting on using this issue as a wedge issue in October to drive up turnout. I mean, how do you get Hispanics that voted for you in 2008 who now have higher unemployment, who have lost their businesses, lost their homes, and lost their jobs? How do you convince them to vote for you again?
Yeah,
like this.
Yeah,
so,
that people like you and Mitt Romney are haters. Yeah, you and Mitt, and that's what they're going to. You and Mitt Romney, talk radio, they're all haters. We're all, this is the same tactic they always use. Senator Rubio, thank you for your analysis on all these issues. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a break on the Laura Ingraham Show. A lot to get to. Your reaction to this and his statement about what Obama's telling these DREAM actors to do. Interesting. Don't go away.
The Laura Ingraham Show.